So yeah, we can go ahead. Like to call to order the 109 board meeting for August 24th, 2022. Whoops, that's wrong. No, it is that right. August 24th, 2022. Welcome everybody. We have a quorum online right now. So we'll start with first order of business, which is approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at them? Does anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Bob, if I could, this is Pete.
Yeah.
I would like to make one small change to the minutes.
Well, let's get a second. Let's get a second on doing the approval, and then we'll have discussion, and you can make the changes. Or go ahead and make the change. That'll avoid us double doing this. Go ahead and make the change. If everybody agrees with it, then we'll look for a second.
It's a small change. It's in the second page, bottom of old business number 2. Chandler asked Mr. Flood what his feelings was on the extension, to which he replied he felt they would grant it. I just wanted to put that I felt that they would grant it instead of saying they would grant it.
Okay.
Because I don't have the authority to say that.
Okay, we had a
I will
motion
now
to
now
approve.
make a motion that we approve the minutes as Pete has presented them.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anyone else have any comments or changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll call a roll for the approval.
Do we need to call a roll? We can.
Yeah. We've only got 4 people. Go ahead.
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes.
Deborah Thompson,
Yes.
Bob Schindler,
Yes.
Deethra Shipley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Next item on the budget is next item on the agenda is the budget report.
Okay, so on the screen, you should see, if everybody can you see the screen, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the last year's fiscal year 22. And while it's not the final one, I don't see any additional changes coming to it. There is, the books should close on that fiscal year on September 9th, before we can truly say that everything is set and we would know what the next rollover is going to be. However, based upon what we've done, our revenue came in at 200%. A lot of that is just due to the rollover and the miscellaneous. If you take those two things out, we were still up 20% above expected revenue, which is good. So everything in the revenue category is great. In the expense category, we ended at 82% of expected expenses. 2 things that did not hit that was expected to hit. Well, I think 3 things. One was that we have not gotten the Recycle Right program off the ground, where we expect to have 4 temporary employees, and that vehicle for that has not come through yet. So that would probably be about another 130,000. And I think that there was an additional item that was probably going to be in the 100,000 mark. I should have wrote it down, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, with those 2 things, we would have come out to about somewhere close to 98% of our expected expenditures, which is pretty close. So we're running pretty good. With last year's budget, we should know the rollover amount that would roll into this next fiscal year. So if any questions on FY 22, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions, anyone?
Good. Yeah, very good.
Okay.
I just have a question about a comment you made. You said that we were going to buy a vehicle for the Recycle Right team. Do we have that ordered already?
We, it's not on order. We specified either a hybrid or fully electric. And I think the hybrids were running fairly far behind, so they can get a fully electric vehicle. And we needed to come and have facilities come to make sure that we could get a charging station with our current electrical system here at work. And they came on Monday, and we have a place for the charging station. Fleet is not going to charge us for that charging station, and it's going to be a dual, so that we can actually plug in two vehicles in case that we for some reason want to purchase another fully electric. And once we knew that, then at that point we can go ahead and make the order for the vehicle. I'm not real sure if they put that order in yet, or even what the time frame for delivery would be on it.
That's perfect about the electrical vehicle. The mayor actually said at the airport board meeting that Louisville Metro is only ordering fully electric vehicles at this point. So but to me, that's a really good thing. And the dual station that's free to us is excellent. I'm really excited to hear that.
Looks like his order has fully taken effect.
Uh-huh.
Does anyone have any questions about the detailed budget sheets that Pete usually passes out for the meeting? Okay, hearing none. Thank you for the budget report, Pete.
Well, I have
Oh, you
I
have
have
something else?
FY 23, the new budget
Oh, okay. Sorry.
for 23. So this is where we're at as of August. So we've had 1 month in. The rollover amount is not listed because we don't know what that's going to be from the previous year's budget until it finally closes. So it will be a significant number. It's going to be more than obviously what we had this past year. And right now we're running well ahead on our revenues again. Seems things are clicking right along. And our personnel expenses, we're running a little bit under, but there's an $84,000 negative in our contractual services, and I don't know why. I've sent that question over to our Office of Management and Budget to find out what that is, but I can't. The only thing I can think of is that something hit from the FY 22 has accidentally hit the FY 23 account and has caused a negative on there. So it should correct itself. But I don't have a full reason for that. But just kind of full disclosure, that should go away.
More than likely, it probably had that had to be out of here, but they'll do an adjust from last year, like rolling those monies into that, just bringing forward, and it should fix itself, like Pete said.
Thanks, Amy. Any questions on FY 23?
All right. No additional questions. We'll move on to the next item.
Next item is correspondence, and there was a letter that did not, unfortunately, get sent out with the packet. The first is a letter from Lake Forest Community concerning the 5-year plan. And as people didn't get it in their packet, I guess I need to read it into the record. The Lake Forest Community Association Incorporated includes 1,748 single-family homes with approximately 8,300 residents. We provide many services and amenities to our residents as as paid for through our annual assessment to each lot owner. As part of the services provided to our residents, we provide weekly garbage and trash pickup along with resident optional recycling and yard waste removal. We routinely enter into contracts with local waste removal companies to provide these services and currently have a 5-year contract with Republic Services, with which we are very pleased. We are aware of the 109 board is considering preparing a 5-year plan as required by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The last time this was done, there was the intention to develop franchise program, which would apply to all of Jefferson County outside of the Urban Services District. It is our hope that will not be included in the plan currently being developed. Please understand that we do not favor and will not support any plan to franchise waste and recycling hauling in Jefferson County. It is our belief that we provide our residents both with reliable and responsible waste hauling services through our contract process. We rely on competition among the available services and an open bid process to provide our residents a quality service at a reasonable price. It is our understanding that the 109 board is also working toward a mandatory recycling program. While we encourage recycling, we do not favor and will not support any mandatory program. Recycling needs to be an optional service and encouraged through education and convenience, not through mandatory edits and penalties. Please consider our concerns and thoughts as you move to complete the next 5-year plan. Second bit of correspondence comes from Marilyn Michael. Dear Mr. Schindler, as a Lake Forest resident, I want to register my support for the Lake Forest Community Association's position that they are providing our residents with quality service at a reasonable and competitive price. And I am concerned that proposed items in the 5-year plan might restrict this process. Thank you. That completes correspondence.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I have asked Pete to take a look at the first letter written by Mr. Gupta because there are some inaccuracies in that letter of what he is claiming that the current 5-year plan is working on. So I've asked Pete to take a look at that regarding the draft 5-year plan that is currently being looked at by the advisory committee. And we'll make a response to Mr. Gupta. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Bob, yes, I would like to just request that Pete send us those just electronically so that we can read them over ourselves too, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem at all. He would make any of that available to the board members.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. We have no action items. Go on to old business. Pete?
So the first one is the Burton Lane Self-Service Recycling Center for Middletown. As everybody knows, we've been reporting on this. This has been a pretty big issue in that Middletown area. A lot of people were upset when the recycling dumpsters had to be removed from the fire department there on Burton Lane. Since then, as you guys know, we have been working really hard to try to find a location. And right now we have found a tentative location. I think I shared this with you guys at the last meeting. I just want to kind of give you an update in that process. So we have the plans and cost estimate of about $100,000. We've had good feedback from MSD for our site disturbance permit, and also from the zoning department on what we need to do. We will have to go through zoning approval to be able to do this. And also through MSD because we're going to be kind of getting into a little bit of the floodplain very slightly. So we've had good feedback from them, and I think that we're ready to go on that. We've also got a tentative lease that is at the county attorney's office to be taken a look at. Obviously, as we discussed at the last meeting, any lease that is signed has to be balanced with cost and term. We don't want to put a lot of money into a place if we're only going to have it for a year. So that is something that we're moving towards. We met with 4 members of the Metro Council yesterday and told them of our plan, which they liked the plan, and they all pledged to support that financially. Also with a request to this board to also support this financially of this $100,000. So, that's 5 different entities. And if the 109 board could pledge $20,000 towards completing this and potentially the footing of the lease payments, I think that would help us move forward fairly quickly in getting this completed. So at this point, I guess what I'm asking for is a pledge, not a vote, necessarily a pledge for that $20,000. Once we have something that is more concrete, like a lease agreement, and the plan is partially through, then we would come back with an approval for any kind of expenditure to this board.
Don't think we've ever done anything like this before. I'm not exactly sure if this should take the form of a resolution or a motion.
When I say a pledge, I think what I'm looking for is just affirmation that there is support for moving forward over the next couple hurdles until we get to a point where it's time to actually expend it. We're not going to spend money unless we have a vote to spend that money, obviously. But we also want to know what we're getting into beforehand. So it's kind of, all I really need to know is kind of like what the Metro Council people did last night, which was saying, yeah, we'll support that whenever the time comes.
Well, I personally don't have any problem at this point saying that I would support moving in this direction. Anybody else for or against? Questions?
We're just trying to do a little straw vote or consensus to see if anybody is going to object to us being a part of this project. I certainly would not. I mean, I would certainly support us being a part of this project. I like the financing plan, and we obviously need to find out what the rent's going to be before we say yes, we'll take care of the rent. But I do support the project. I think we should move forward with the planning. So
I agree. I agree as well.
That is great, and we'll start. I'll let the other parties know, and we'll get started. And once we get to a point where we have to make some decisions, we'll be coming back to the board and to give you the facts and the details and see where we go from there.
Pete, knowing how much grief this has caused to some people because that site over right off Shelbyville Road was closing, I would assume you all are making some kind of plans to try to have a way to get the word out once this thing moves. I guess if we've received letters or emails or complaints, we could respond to those people saying, hey, we've got a place open. And I would hope maybe that we could do the same thing with anything that the council or possibly Metro Call has received on this. Just some way, other than just a general advertisement, some way to reply to people that had concerns about it. And then hopefully by word of mouth, they would spread it around and we won't lose a lot of that good participation we had out here.
Yeah, I think it's mostly been through the Metro Council members that we've received the concerns. And I don't know if they kept their contacts or whatever. I don't think that we're going to have a hard time getting the word out because the interest is extremely high. So, we'll send out the meeting request, or not the meeting request, but the announcements. We'll make sure that it goes out in our works week. We'll make sure that it goes out to those Metro Council newsletters. And we'll talk to our communications team on whether or not that there would be a press release of any sort to let people know that it's back open. I do know that, we're hoping that once we start it back up, that we're not going to get overwhelmed with people, obviously, but we'll have to empty I think there's going to be 9 front load dumpsters. We'll have to empty them twice a day to be able to keep up with them. I think it's going to be, I don't think that we're going to have too much trouble getting the word out. Karen, would you agree with that?
Yeah, considering anytime I mention anything on a lot of the sites, people comment asking about that. So I think the word can spread pretty fast.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments of Pete or Karen? Okay, next item of old business.
Shall I
Yes, please.
take this one? Okay. So we wanted to announce that the contract for our education and outreach campaign that we put the RFP out for went to a company called Field Trip. And so far, aside from our interview meeting, which went really well, I thought, we haven't gotten together with them. They sent an email that listed several things that they would need from us. And then they asked us to hold September 1st for a kickoff meeting that could last a couple hours to they're basically starting their survey phase, and their team members would be students of swim, so that we've scheduled a couple of ride-alongs for the garbage crews. We're working on tours, like for West Rock Recycling, and sharing information with them. So we're really excited for that kickoff meeting next week. Did anybody have any questions about the company or anything?
Okay, thank you, Karen. New business.
Well, Bob, if I could, somebody can make a motion to add this item to the agenda. I wanted to update the board on the questions about the Open Meetings Act from last month.
So moved.
Second.
I'll
You ready
second.
for it?
We have a motion and a second to add this item to the agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor of adding this item to the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, proceed, Pete.
Okay, so last month I announced that there were changes to the Open Meetings Act, and there was a couple questions. One was, can members mute themselves during the meeting? And the answer to that is yes, you can mute yourself, but obviously with the exception of when you need to speak, which is yes. So we can do that. As far as being visible the whole time that there's business being conducted, my understanding is from talking with the county attorney is that if we have a presentation up there and someone is in the scroll at the top, if a citizen can click and scroll through the attendees and your camera is on, then we meet the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. If somebody, if they're can't be seen, and you can't scroll through the attendees' cameras, then we would not be in compliance. So the question, and something that I'm going to need to do, is kind of test to see how that works. And if it comes to being using a different version of WebEx, that's what we'll need to do. I think Metro Council is operating under this, so it may be watching some of their material, making sure that staff is conducting the meetings and making having everyone visible for the public to see. But in general, it's not a problem if you can't see them, if you can scroll and see them, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It makes sense to me, but I'm using an iPad on this and I do not have a scroll at the top of mine. So I don't know if it's, if I was using a computer, if it would be different, but I can't scroll through anybody. When we just took that vote, I thought nobody was visible when we voted to add this to the agenda.
Well, Mary Rose, I also use an iPad for this meeting, and I do have a scroll at the top of my
Really?
Yes.
I'm not sure. So what are you talking about? A scroll? I don't see a scroll function, and I'm on an iPad as well.
So when you see the presentation, everybody sees the
Mm-hmm.
slide here. Up at the top, you should see attendees' faces.
No.
Now there's one,
do.
two, there's about 15 people here, but you probably only see about 4 or 5. You should be able to click on that right side of that bar and scroll through to see everybody else there. Or there should be a setting somewhere in here that will allow you to be able to see all the participants. I have to get up to speed on this. Until then, what I can do is whenever we have a vote, I can make sure that we minimize the presentation so that everybody is visible again.
Mary Rose and Deborah, when on my iPad, when I tap up around in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, I get a little box that says layout.
I
And
see.
then, and when I tap layout, I get, I get a thing that gives me a choice of either stack or focus. And when I touch stack, that's when the scroll of faces appears
Okay.
across the top
Oh,
of the
I
screen.
Yeah, a
I
miracle.
got that. Okay. That worked.
All right, very good, very
Now I
good.
can scroll through and see people's faces.
It's
Okay.
unusual that I can give advice on how to use these things, but I'm glad that worked.
You can celebrate tonight.
Okay.
Anything else that I guess you've covered what's on your slide, Pete?
Yes, sir.
Any
Can I ask a
questions?
clarifying question, please?
Yes.
Chairman Schindler, do I understand that all attendees, whether it be board members or attendees, have to have their camera on at all time, or is it just the voting members of the 109 board?
I think it's just the 109 board members, correct?
That's the way I understand it. If you're on the board
Yes.
participating in the meeting, then you have to, I don't think attendees even have to have on their camera if they talk
Okay, thank you.
over the phone. Yeah.
I think it's preferred, just not required. So just wanted to update
People
you
to be
guys.
able, they want as many people to be able to participate as possible, and not everybody has an iPad. Some people just have a phone or a flip
Absolutely.
or something. So they want them to be able to participate too.
Yes.
So-
Any other questions on that? Okay. Do you have any other old business?
No, that's it.
New business.
If I could, Bob, I think that we might have lost our quorum. Deetra has dropped off of the meeting.
I'm back.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna-
there you are.
Yeah, knock me out. I'm back.
Okay, so we're back. Okay, we ready for the next item?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the board voted to allow Karen Maynard, Diane Moon, and myself to go to the Recycling Resource Conference in Austin, Texas. We attended last week, and I walked away very impressed with a lot of the forums there. These are some of the classes that were available to us. Fresh Ideas to Inspire Progress, EPR, Rethinking MRF Contracts, Chemical Recycling, Resiliency, and New Strategies, and to Elevate Your Outreach. From my standpoint, what stood out to me is probably the EPR, what it means for local programs. And that really kind of stands for, before I mess it up, it stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. And what that really means is, in theory, is that product manufacturers and distributors should be responsible for the life of their products and packaging after the consumer is through with them. So it, in theory, that because they have to pay for or help local governments recycle these things, and it could be anywhere from regular recycling to batteries to other things, that the companies that are responsible for their products would simplify and streamline those products to be more recyclable and reusable, as well as less costly, making the overall system less wasteful and more efficient. It has been applied in a lot of countries across the world, and it has worked extremely well. There's 4 states in the United States that have adopted them with varying degrees of responsibility and the like. There are some drawbacks that could be as part of this, and there's a kind of a questionable track record when it comes to handling products that, while not toxic or dangerous, are still hard to manage at the local level. Some of those would be something like mattresses, light bulbs, and things like that. So it's an emerging part of the solid waste industry, which the extended producer responsibility is. I think that that's probably going to be in the future of just about everybody. I don't think there'll be a national program or a national standard model. So you might end up with 50 states and 50 different extended producer responsibilities, which will drive manufacturers crazy and make it just more confusing. But the future, I think, lies somewhat in there. The other one that that was a hot topic was the chemical recycling in local programs. Chemical recycling is really kind of using heat and chemical reactions to break down plastics into the raw materials for fuel and other chemicals. So there's a lot of talk about that and whether or not that it's a good thing or a bad thing. Generally, people that are serious recyclers feel like that it's not recycling. And I think that that was a theme at the conference. I don't know how Karen and Diane felt about it, but I kind of had a feeling that it was moving towards it's not recycling. It might be another method that's better than disposal, but it's not recycling. And it's typically hard to recycle things. The hierarchy needs to be reduce and reuse and then recycle, and then this sometime somewhere after. It's in the early stages. And I know the state of Kentucky looked at it in this past legislative session as far as creating some regulations to get out in front of it. But with so much still out there, we couldn't really say one way or another how we felt about it. So we kind of declined on it and did not necessarily support it as Louisville Metro government. But it's something that you're going to hear more about, and it may have a use. I don't know, but we'll see. Those were two of the biggest things that stood out to me. Karen, do you have anything that you wanted to add as far as things that stood out to you?
Not too much. I think what you hit on were on my list of things that was good to learn about. And I also just had some notes that some of the other cities that were kind of reporting about what they do, you know, kind of validated what we've been working toward and what we've, you know, like the cart tagging program, starting that up, bulky waste by appointment, our materials having translation, and so some of the main things that other cities were reporting about, I felt pretty good that we were moving in the right direction.
Diane, do you have anything?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of nice to see some of the people that we worked with when we were setting up the OOPS tags. The person from Atlanta, was it Kanika, I think is her name. Anyway, that was interesting. And just being able to talk to people in the industry, since this was, you know, a big thing for me to go to, just seeing all the, how involved people were with waste was very interesting.
So in the end, all of these presentations will, I think, be available, and something that we hope to make, if anybody from the board or committees wanted to view any of these sessions, we're hoping that we can make these available to everyone. And I do think that it was well worth us going to this conference, and hopefully we can do so more, because we do believe it's a benefit to the Waste Management District as we go, and it should pay dividends in the future. Any questions about our conference?
Did you all get an overall feeling? This may not be a fair question because everybody couldn't attend every session, I guess, but do you get an overall feeling about where the Louisville metro area resides in, I mean, if you had to rank our overall efforts from a 1 to a 10 compared to everybody else? May not be a fair question, but anybody get kind of a feel for that?
Well, what I can say, when it comes to diversion and how you calculate diversion, it was definitely spoke about in the fact that everybody measures it differently, and you can't really compare one place to the other. It is just so many different formulas and things that you look at one city, there might be quite a few differences, and those differences can be pretty big. I think from a education standpoint, I think that we're in the upper echelon. Is my guess. So I think that Louisville actually stacks up pretty well in a lot of categories, but you know, we still have some work in some others.
Any other questions?
I can ask a quick question. So for the extended producer responsibility, did you see a lot of the content more around, you know, engaging with purchasing decisions, or was there something that could be done at the waste management district level?
The discussions there were pretty high level, in which case it was more a discussion about whether or not they're good, and then more on the topic of the differences between the ones that have been approved. And there's only been, like I said, 4 states. And I think that there was a lot of concern about the variances, because you can set them up and every one of them was different. And it was more about that. Now, they did talk about where you can go to get more information about the EPRs that have been finalized. And I know Denver is the next one that is close to adopting an EPR law. So didn't get into the very specific about those and whether or not that can be done at the waste district level. I don't think that it would be something that the waste district can do. I think that it would have to be done at the state level and maybe with support or recommendations from the Waste Management District and Louisville Metro government on their feelings about what it could be. And I think that obviously the devil's going to be in the details of that, and it's going to be a highly controversial thing. But in theory, EPR laws have worked across the world. If you can get everybody on board, it has shown to be a good thing. I hope I answered your question.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Pete, thank you. And if if those things are available, be sure to let us know.
Sure things.
Advisory committee report.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. I will say that we were able to meet for one meeting this month. We were not able to meet, was it the 17th,
Bruce,
I believe?
we can't hear you. Your volume is extremely low.
Well, that's a problem with this laptop when I'm not at the office. So I may have to shout, but can you hear that level?
Yes.
Barely.
We had one meeting this month, and that was, I believe, on the 10th of August. And correct me if I'm wrong, Karen. We did make significant progress throughout the document. We have some work to do in chapters 2, 3, 4, and I believe 6. And there's completion work that needs to happen in chapter 7. And Pete's done a lot of work on it since our last meeting, as we discussed, and we hope to present a bit more information at our next regularly scheduled meeting. I really don't have any further details other than that.
Okay.
Any questions, Bob?
No, I just, again, thank you all for all the work you do on this. I know this is taking a lot of people's time.
I do apologize for the volume issue. I'm at the house and not at the office tonight, so.
Well, it's gotten better all of a sudden, at least on my machine.
Mine too.
Yes, mine too.
I would add that the current working copy should be going out to everyone very soon to get it out to the advisory committee. And I'll be sending it out to the 109 board as well. Obviously, everybody's invited to the committee meetings where we discuss these things for their input.
Any other questions of Bruce? Okay. You don't have anything else, Pete? We'll move along. Did somebody say something?
Sorry, that was just me. I thought we're already moving on.
I have a question though. Did we get that extension?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. Sorry, Mary Rose. I received email confirmation of an extension till December 15th, and it will be followed with a formal letter in the mail. I got that today at about 12 o'clock.
Well, I think that's good news.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks. Thank you for reminding me on that. I meant to tell everybody that.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to the staff report.
Yes, I was gonna share a little bit about how it's going with our pop-up drop-off events. We have had 5 of the 9, and our next one is actually this Saturday at Eastern High School. Probably our biggest hangup this year has been the shredding, document shredding. We've just had some issues with the companies. One raised their prices really high and kind of last minute, which caused us to, on April 30th, we weren't able to offer it at all. And then we had an issue with, on July 16th, the shredder truck didn't show up. So we tried to offer a makeup event just for a couple hours of shredding. Wasn't super well attended, but we wanted to at least, do our due diligence of trying to offer that. And the prices have gone up. So, and that's the one thing we asked Metro Council to pay for. So there's definitely been some chatter about how to deal with that in the future. So we're committed to it for this year, but I'm not quite sure what's going to happen for next year on the document shredding side of things. I know this is kind of small, but this is a chart that shows our participation in the green. So like Sun Valley had 549 vehicles. That was our highest participation. We did really well at Doss High School. That was the first time we had an event at that location, and that was one we added to try to capture some zip codes that we weren't getting last year. And we had 468, so that was a pretty well attended event. And last year at Eastern, we had about 800 vehicles. So I'm kind of hoping we don't get that extreme again on Saturday, but we'll see. So we keep our towns, and you can, at the top, it shows how we calculate if, to make an estimate, just so it's all the same units. But then how much, the black is the junk, so that's the only thing that's landfilled. So we keep a diversion rate, and last year's overall diversion rate was 41%, and we're hovering right around that still. One of our goals was to increase the diversion rate, but we still have 4 more to go, so we'll see.
Very good. Any questions? No questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Karen. That looks good. And I got to figure the way you all have organized it now with, the electronics and the tires and the separate categories, that the diversion compared to the way it was done years ago with everybody just showing up at the landfill and most of it going in the landfill, I got to imagine our diversion is way up, which is a good thing. And y'all are to be commended for organizing it this way.
It wasn't hard to improve our diversion rate over the old way we did it because it was pretty much zero.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Anything else on the staff report?
No, sir.
Okay. We have our announcements. Board meeting is going to be on the 28th. Any questions on the upcoming schedules? Are there any questions from anybody, board members, attendees? Announcements?
Why is the shredding going up in cost? It seems like that's something that's the most valuable thing we have. I'm just curious, why is that an issue?
My theory, because they went from $500, I think, per event to $1,000 per hour. Is that
Wow.
it wasn't an inflation thing. It wasn't, I don't know what it was, but this company was kind of struggling. Their vehicle was kind of struggling. And I am not sure that they truly wanted to do it anymore. So we ended up going with someone else. We got a much better rate, but they didn't show. It doesn't help if they don't show up. So we're kind of limited on the number of people that can actually shred on site. So one of the talking points is that if we can't, it's important that we offer this document shredding, and it could be something that we try to buy our own document shredding vehicle for the future. We're not sure how much that would cost, but you know, the shredding is an extremely popular part of the pop-up drop-off events. So might be a decision that we have to make if we continue to have problems and we continue to have these escalation in cost.
Is contamination an issue?
No,
Wouldn't
not
think
at all.
Right. I would think they make money off that, what they shred.
I would say Bruce is sitting up there. Bruce, what is clean paper going for nowadays?
I would be guessing, Pete, but it's well over 150 a ton. Sounds like a business opportunity to me.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If we got our own shredder, we would have to then pay staff to man it as well. So
Yeah, I
Really
don't
the
think
only-
the staffing would be difficult for us.
Yeah, I think you want to have something that's, not sitting around a lot. So, the shredding companies go to different places. If you buy a piece of equipment, you want to be using it. So,
I think the opportunity is, find somebody with a CDL driver, a shredder, and a truck,
right,
and contract with them
right.
and lock them in, because I don't know that you want to carry the overhead of the shredder just for 5 or 10 events a year.
No.
yeah,
But
Right.
I can't believe you can't get a responsible shredder to show up.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we had a quick meeting tonight. Thanks everyone for attending. Thanks all the board members for attending. Thanks to anybody else who had comments, contributed to the meeting. I guess if nobody has anything else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We have a motion and a second, so we are adjourned at 6:27 p.m. Thank you, and see everybody in September 28th. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.